他狼子实乃我正道大敌，野心要灭天下宗派。
国师的位子我都可以让给你，你想要做官的话，
村长爷爷传授给我的剑，
做仙，
神亦可杀，
誓死与他为敌。我道门
就是你的致命。
From a distance, the golden palace of Rolan finally came into view, radiating a majestic glow in the middle of the vast grasslands. Before him, Kinmu saw a massive lake, so wide it resembled an ocean in the midst of the bluish-green plains. Further north, endless snow-covered mountains stretched across the horizon, and among those peaks, one golden shining mountain stood out brilliantly. By opening his heavenly eye, Kinmu realized that the light was not a natural reflection of gold, but the gleam of a magnificent palace that cloaked the entire peak. From afar, the palace made the mountain appear like solid gold. Towering halls, walls, and grand structures merged into an unrivaled sight. Gold was the sole currency on the plains, and common folk regarded it as the rarest treasure. Thus, the fact that a mountain could be transformed into a golden palace revealed the unimaginable wealth of this place. During their journey, the group had used gold ingots gifted by General Bian to cover their needs. Upon reaching the lake's edge, the atmosphere turned grim. On the water's surface stood wooden poles, each dangling a rotting human head, marks of the shaman's cruelty. Kinmi was stunned as he spotted a horned man standing at the bow of a wooden boat. Dressed in black robes, his face resembled that of a goat, thin fur covering his cheeks. Kinmu recalled the tale of a soldier he once healed, about a horned barbarian who could defeat enemies with nothing but a mirror's reflection. He had thought it was just a mask, but seeing it now, he understood. The horns were real, and such people truly existed. The goat-faced shaman stared sharply. Marshal Han, the grand shaman, has been waiting. Board the boat. Basan stepped aboard with a smile, explaining that the water of this lake was different. Even a single hair would sink. Only the special boats of Roland's Golden Palace could cross it. Kinmu, Ling Yuxiu, the Green Bull, and Hullinger followed. When Ling Yuxiu asked why they did not simply walk around the lake or fly across, the shaman sneered. "Try flying, if you dare. The air here is dead." The Green Bull added in a deep voice. The air above the lake was indeed stagnant. Breathing was impossible, let alone flying. Anyone who tried would create a vacuum around his own nose and suffocate. Only the boat could move while carrying air along with it. Hullinger attempted to summon the wind, but his spell failed. There was no airflow to command. The shaman explained further. Circling the lake was possible, but it would take 2 full days, and those who reached the snowy mountains beyond rarely returned alive. Kinmu opened his heavenly eye and saw a veil of thin mist, like silk, blanketing the skies, likely the reason air could not circulate. Looking down at the waters, he was horrified to see piles of human bones at the bottom. Ling Yuxiu gasped, while Basan coldly explained that the bones belonged to slaves sacrificed in the shaman's rituals. The boat sped forward with startling swiftness, a sign the shaman commanded a secret technique. Upon reaching the base of the snow mountain, he smirked slyly and told them to disembark. Basan began walking the path toward the golden summit. Suddenly, the sound of trumpets thundered, followed by an avalanche tumbling from the mountain, displaying the overwhelming power of the palace. Basan's loud laughter sent shivers through everyone's blood, almost making their veins burst under the pressure. From the peak, a heavy voice responded, scolding Basan for flaunting his power. Yet he was still invited to come up. Basin replied casually, saying his purpose was not to reminisce, but to blockade the mountain gate. A golden staircase stretched magnificently. In front of a grand gate adorned with jade and pearls, Kinmu saw many shamans and plain warriors gathered, ready to block their way. This very gate had once been guarded by Basan and the Butcher for 3 months, defeating countless palace experts until their names as martial emperors and Heaven Han spread far and wide. Now Basan ordered the green bull to uproot the gate. The beast transformed into a colossal monster, hoisting the golden gate upon his shoulders. Everyone gawked at such power. Basan laughed and commanded, "Carry this gate up the mountain." Kinmu immediately understood the plan. By sealing the main gate, they could more easily steal their master's body. Yet it was a grave risk. If the gate were closed from inside, they might be trapped with no escape. Basin reminded Kinmu to prepare for sudden attacks. They ascended the path to the summit, passing bizarre statues of hybrids, half human, half demon, half god. The oppressive atmosphere silenced even Hullinger. Shamans followed behind, glaring at them with hatred. Ahead, strange creatures appeared, horned, winged, beast-headed, and snake-tailed. They were not true demons, but products of the shaman's transformation techniques. Upon reaching the grand hall, they saw cages filled with ragged humans, test subjects for the shamans. Ling Yushu fumed, recognizing them as citizens of the Eternal Peace Empire, but Kinmu reminded her that her own empire had once enslaved people from the Great Ruins. His words left Ling Yushu speechless. Hullinger pointed at another cage of demons, proving that the shamans also exploited such beings. Basan explained, by devouring souls, shamans could sprout wings, replace their heads, or transform their bodies. Those who succeeded became grand shamans. Those who failed remained ordinary shamans, and those who surpassed all limits could rise as shaman kings. The Golden Palace of Rolan was the center of the shamanic cult, its foundation rooted in the legendary sacred scripture of the Grand Shaman Ruda. At the mountain's peak, a majestic sight awaited them: golden buildings, colossal pillars, and statues of golden gods surrounded by barbarians. Yet one of the statues moved. Kinmu realized it was no statue at all, but a grand shaman whose body had been purified until it shone like a god. From the main gate, an elderly grand shaman emerged. Wearing a golden robe and crown, he demanded sternly why Basin had only appeared now. Basin merely laughed, ordering the green bull to drop the gate, and reminded them all how he had once beaten countless people when he blockaded this very place. His words ignited the wrath of the grand shamans, and tension thickened. One of them challenged him to a rematch to avenge past humiliation. Basin coldly replied that this time he had no intention of slaughter, only to seal the gate. He entrusted the task of holding the blockade to Kinmu and Lin Yuxu. Ling Yushu hesitated, but Basan reaffirmed the rule of this place. There was no mercy. Every battle was to the death. For them, an equal enemy must be killed. For sparing one's foe only invited danger. A grand shaman stepped forward, declaring the rules of the duel. The fight would take place within the realm of the 5 elements, with their lives as the stake. Anyone who cheated would forfeit his life. He mocked Basin, saying that in the past it was Heaven Han who had led, not him. Basan only whispered to Kinmu and Ling Yushu, "Remember, your lives depend on me. If I die, no one can say whether you'll survive." The power of the Golden Palace of Rolan was so vast that it could bury the truth completely. Their only hope lay with Chancellor Basin, for as long as he lived, he could carry the story outside, for he alone dared to reveal it to the world. Not long after, Several shamans descended the mountain slope to block their path. One of them, horned and winged like a mythical creature, stepped forward with mockery. Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu greeted him politely, but he replied only with threats that he would kill them and devour their souls to strengthen his dark arts. Qin Mu asked permission to go first. Yuxiu agreed. With the Green Bull's help, he donned his battle gear, twin blades, a sword box, a hammer, and a short sword at his waist. The Green Bull doubted him, but Qin Mu answered lightly, "I am a sovereign body, an invincible figure in the same realm." The winged shaman laughed at the claim, but before he could move, Qin Mu leapt like lightning. His first punch became the shadow of a dragon's head. The enemy tried to block with a golden hammer, but the weapon shattered. His body exploded into a mist of blood, then unraveled into dozens of blood dragons. Qin Mu stood firm before the golden gate and roared. "If my master needed 100 days to conquer the golden palace of Rolan, then I need only 1 day." His cry enraged the shamans. They came forth one after another, but Qin Mu cut them down with blade, flying sword, fist, and kick alike. Some bore elephant heads, some wielded black banners, and one leopard-headed woman held a mystic mirror. All were slain in turn. Qin Mu's sword ended each duel swiftly, decisively, and fatally. When a shaman of the Six Directions realm transformed into a giant ape wielding a golden staff, Qin Mu met him with nothing more than a bamboo rod. In a thunderous clash, the bamboo pierced his foe's heart before he could unleash his full power. Qin Mu realized that even these grand shamans were little different from ordinary practitioners. So long as they had not surpassed their realm, he could still destroy them. The battle grew fiercer. A golden-skinned giant appeared with a colossal scabbard, unleashing a rain of razor-sharp light from the heavens. But Qin Mu responded with his ultimate technique: the storm will always pass. 2 blade lights, one crossing, one vertical, sliced the giant into 4 pieces. The slaughter continued without end. Dozens of shamans advanced and all fell. When silence finally returned, more than 40 corpses lay scattered on the golden stairs leading up to the palace. Qin Mu stood atop them, gazing down. The eyes of the remaining shamans, once filled with resolve, were now flooded with fear. Their spirit began to collapse. It was then Qin Mu understood the golden palace of Rolan cultivated using human souls. He remembered his confusion when General Terimu had handed rebel souls over to this palace. Now all was clear. He had come not only for his master's lower body, but also to shatter the cult's faith, to prove that their arts were nothing but futility. With a chilling tone, he demanded, "Which one of you holds the sacred scripture of the Grand Shaman Ruda? Step forward. I want to kill one." Silence. No one answered. Until finally, a young man named Shimuro stepped forth. An old shaman whispered his weakness, his left shoulder, but Bossen only scoffed, calling such an act disgraceful. Shimuro fixed his sharp gaze on Qin Mu. He was certain this was the moment. Qin Mu had just fought through more than 40 duels. His hands were torn with wounds, while Shimuro stood fresh, his cultivation intact. Yet Qin Mu remained calm, standing tall. The duel erupted. Shimuro transformed, growing the head and wings of a bird, each feather a glowing golden sword. His attacks came in a relentless torrent, but Qin Mu held firm with the midnight battle technique, a skill that required no sight. Qin Mu's swords clashed against Shimuro's feather blades, the battle raging fiercely. Finally, Qin Mu raised his finger and summoned 36 swords from his box, merging them into the drilling sword. The strike pierced Shimuro's chest. The shaman attempted to flee into the air, but Kinmu employed the Heaven Thief foot technique to run atop the wind, pursuing him with unmatched speed. With a single slash, Shimoro's neck was severed. His body remained upright, wings spread wide, prompting the spectators to cheer, thinking he was still alive. But Kinmu stepped forward, grabbed his hair, and hurled Shimoro's head down the golden stairs. The cheering fell silent, replaced by a chilling stillness. Kinmu was wounded in the shoulder, yet he refused treatment. "I will crush the enemy's spirit, no matter how severe this wound is," he said firmly. Yukshu worried, knowing such injuries could become a weakness against a stronger opponent. Before she could react, another young shaman appeared from the sacred hall, introducing himself as Danbaro of the Six Directions realm. With a cold glare, he readied himself to fight, sealing his divine treasures to battle Kinmu. Kinmu immediately recognized the new threat. He retreated swiftly, leaping onto the roof of the Golden Hall. Danbaro pursued fiercely, wielding a terrifying giant golden skull hammer. The hammer was adorned with rows of small skulls with glowing eyes, as if alive. From their mouths, black smoke shot forth like dragons of darkness toward Kinmu. Kinmu attempted to slash them with a flying sword, but his control weakened. One by one, his swords fell, corrupted by the black smoke. Shocked, he realized for the first time that Ruda's sacred scripture had multiple branches. Shimoro had followed the sword path, while Danbaro mastered the path of dark magic. The smoke dragons even pierced the tiles and walls of the Golden Hall, haunting the entire chamber. Their battle raged wildly. Both leapt, ran, and crashed through the building like feral beasts. In a powerful clash, Kinmu fell into the palace hall. Danbaro saw his chance and smashed the roof with a single swing, breaking through, only to be met by Kinmu's retaliatory strike, cutting ruthlessly. The fight intensified. They tore through hall after hall, with Danbaro relentlessly pursuing. The watching shamans began cheering with relief. The tense atmosphere shifted. They were certain Kinmu was now cornered. Danbaro grew more ferocious, convinced victory was imminent. Yet Kinmu suddenly halted. Drawing his sword, he activated the mountain and river step on the world technique, creating massive illusions of mountains and rivers pressing Danbaro from all sides. Before the mountain gate, the spectators held their breath. Moments later, Danbaro appeared on the roof. He raised his head high as if declaring victory. Cheers erupted like thunder. Ling Yushu froze, her face drained of color, her body rigid. The green bull and Hoolinger fell silent, believing Kinmu had perished. In her heart, Ling Yushu could only murmur bitterly, "The cowherd is dead." The shaman kings nodded to each other with satisfaction. They regarded Danbaro as an extraordinary talent, ruthless yet cautious. Yet one king was puzzled. Why had Danbaro not returned to the sacred hall? It turned out that Danbaro had silently stepped back into the Golden Hall, not toward the gate. Another king guessed he was recovering. Their attention then shifted to Ling Yuxiu, now seemingly alone, facing an uncertain fate.